Good evening, everyone. This is Nitha Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. Happy Thursday. This is episode 982. I'm joined by a really special guest. Her name is Sarina Morales. She's a former Rams reporter the Rams who just won the Super Bowl. She used to work with them. She used to work for ESPN, Sports Center, host. Now she works for Bally Sports. She's everywhere. Her resume speaks for itself. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Spotify, and the fans can tune in Spreaker, and also they can ask questions for Sarina. So please tune in, ask questions to Sarina. She's one of the best out there when it comes to women in sports, and one of the best reporters. She's the GOAT, in my opinion, when it comes to analyzing sports. And man, first of all, Sarina, I'm truly grateful for you to be joining the show. And like I said earlier, I didn't expect her to answer because she was covering the Super Bowl this week. But man, thank you again for coming on. How are you and your family doing today?
My family's great. We are resting now that I've slept many hours on Super Bowl Sunday. There was not 1 ounce of sleep. I think I got like maybe an hour, but I worked a full 24 hours. So just crazy, but it's good to now kind of figure out what's next for me. So it's good. Got through it.
Yeah, let's start before we get to your career. Let's start with that. This covering the Super Bowl this year, and I'm sure you're happy for your former team that you worked with, the Rams. Obviously, they deserved it. Aaron Donald deserved it. But for you, what was it like just to be there in general, in person, covering the Super Bowl with Annie Ager, another inspiring woman out there? But what was it like just covering the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, it was funny because I've covered a few Super Bowls now, but the first Super Bowl that I covered was with the Rams, and I went with the Rams to Super Bowl 53. And so it was sort of like an outer body experience sometimes, because I'm like, wow, it's so funny. I would normally be way more, in touch with this team. COVID comes along, the way that people are reporting in general. Reporters have had their hands full trying to get access to players and different insights. So really blessed that I was able to get some extra team because of my relationships that I built over the years and being their team reporter for over 3 seasons. So yes, it was cool because I knew how much, from the perspective of Les Snead, the GM of the Rams, from Kevin Demoff, Tony Pastors, the front office, and the players. Like, I know personally how much, just sitting in the cafeteria back in the day and, talking about Super Bowl 53 and knowing how much they wanted, to win then, to imagining, wow, you went through that and you're like, I am not going to experience that loss again. There was sort of like I'm not surprised. And even talking to players and staff after, it was a close game and it could have gone either way. And, hearing from some of the players after, like, I knew we were going to get it. I knew we were going to figure it out. So it was great. It was great to see SoFi Stadium, packed. And as, COVID cases are going down, people are getting vaccinated and boosted. It seems like there was less of an aftermath issue. And just to see, I was in SoFi Stadium when it was being built. Like, I was standing at the 50-yard line in dirt. Yeah. There weren't even seats in SoFi Stadium. I couldn't even imagine, what it was going to look like to then cover an empty SoFi Stadium for a season with the Rams, and then to be from the outside and seeing them from afar, and then also just, seeing SoFi Stadium and what it's become has been really cool. Really, really cool experience.
Well, that's amazing. And I'm going to ask you more about the Rams later on, but this show is about you. So for you, when did you get started being interested in sports, and who would you say that you looked up to as a woman in when the women in sports was still growing? But who did you look up to?
It's crazy. When I was a kid, I really wanted to play for the Yankees. I wanted to be center fielder for the New York Yankees. Oh, wow. Bernie Williams was fielder for the Yankees. I was like, well, I'm younger than him. I could totally fill in next. Like, there was never a no in my life. Thankfully, my parents, no parent is perfect. I'm not here to go, my goodness, you guys are great. They are great. But the thing that I think, we get stuck in these stereotypes of like, my daughter can't be put in these situations physically. Like, we can't do this. They never, my dad's an old school Puerto Rican. He's pretty machismo when it comes to this stuff. And my mom we come from a Colombian background as well. The two of them never ever told me no, or like a woman can't do this, or I was never told no in where I wanted to do. Like my parents put me in piano lessons, and I started playing piano. They put me because I wanted to play piano. My parents put me to play baseball because I was interested in watching Yankee games, but it was really just because I wanted to watch more TV on Saturdays and Sundays.
Mhm.
But they didn't know that back then. And then being put on a baseball team, my dad wanted sons, and he had two daughters, and I was his last son, air quotes. And so I was sort of like, he was like, "You want to play baseball? Okay, we'll play baseball." And I think he learned with me all of the barriers and
Yeah.
harassment and everything that you would experience. Because like I was innocent. I didn't know, like, oh, I didn't know this was a sport just for men. I thought I was allowed to play. Like, what, to play baseball specifically? It's not really a contact sport where you're gonna have men on women beating each other up like football per se. But honestly, women just grow as big as men. Like we're all eating the same food now. Like I happen to be a smaller sized human. So yeah, I got into sports because I love baseball. Love the Yankees. Grew up, we used to go to games all the time with my family, watched them on TV. And so my first female like person that I was like, oh my gosh, I could do this, was Susan Waldman, who still calls Yankee games on radio with John Sterling. And even when I listen to, I have the MLB, like I have games all year long, like even though I cover football for the most part, but I'll listen to Susan Waldman and John Sterling on the radio as like a comfort, putting a warm blanket over you in the summertime, which you obviously don't need because New York humidity is disgusting. But maybe like a cool fan breezing just on you. Like it is such a comfort to hear them. And that was my first experience really listening to a female talk about sports in general. And then obviously is the growth of ESPN and, seeing Hannah Storm and Linda Cohn, especially Linda with her New York accent too. I was like, oh my gosh, there's like a handful of people that do this. But, growing up, I really just wanted to be Bernie Williams. He was my idol. Like I was just like, I'm going to be just like Bernie. And that's where like this whole tomboy thing, like I try and get that word out of my vocabulary and vernacular completely. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I grew up a tomboy. Like, yo, you're allowed to wear makeup. You're allowed to do whatever you want. You can still be a baller on the field, and it doesn't matter. Same for men. Men want to wear their jewelry. They want to look pretty. They want to do anything. They could be queer. They could be transgender. They could be a male, female, however you want to identify yourself. At the end of the day, you could ball, then ball out. And I feel like we just need to get over this, oh, she dresses like a boy, or she does this like a man, or like I feel like let's get rid of all that, because I'm at the point of you're good or you're good. And so I felt like growing up as a kid, I wasn't allowed to, because what we wear, we're identifying ourselves. We want people to perceive ours as how we are. So I wanted to be perceived as a baseball player. Well, what did I do? I dressed like baseball players. But now it's just become, thankfully we'd be able, everyone, you could wear a hoodie and sweatpants. And it doesn't mean that you play baseball. You might like it. Doesn't mean anything. So thank goodness for like hoodies and sweatpants being very cool again, because that's what I used to wear. And it was just, but I wanted to look like I was a baseball player, like I was an athlete. So it's just crazy, growing up, it was really difficult. Like I had long hair, and people would be like, is that a dude or is that a girl on the baseball field? It was terrible. I mean, the first time I ever played, when I got older and I was playing baseball, 15, 16, 17 years old, I was the only female in the league. I was invited to try out for the team, made the team, and they didn't even invite women to play. There was one other female that played a few years before me, but I knew the coaches. Again, I grew up in the Bronx. You kind of know the same people. I mean, my current boyfriend now lives with me, and we played baseball together in the Bronx, like went to the same high school. So like, you just know who are the players and who are the big names in baseball. And I was always the girl. So everyone kind of knew me, and they're like, let her try out. Tried out, made the team. But they protested. They didn't want me. The other teams did not want me playing in this league. And they sat down on the field, my first at bat in that league, at Allerton Field, still remember it. But I mean, so that's kind of how I got into it. Just I loved the New York Yankees, and those guys win all the time, and you want to win too as a kid growing up.
Man, that's an inspiring story. You proved a lot of people wrong though. You're working hard, and I don't know who the haters. I don't know what the haters are doing now, but you're killing it in the sports industry. And by the way, I'm a Yankee fan too, so we're in the same boat. Let's go. I
Let's
want
go.
baseball. This lockout's killing me. I want this baseball back.
Right. I know. Same. We'll see how long that goes. The Yankees need a little help this year, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But speaking of barriers, speaking of the Yankees, what was your thoughts when the Yankees hired the first female minor league coach, Rachel
I
Boco?
know.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's funny because there's a all female baseball team out here, younger baseball team, but all female. And my boyfriend Jonathan is actually going to help, work with them. He's doing a clinic this weekend with them, which I think is so cool. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're doing this? And he goes, yeah, I gotta like respect you. I want to make sure that I'm doing things for the future use. And I actually meant more to me than anything. Again, I don't, because every time you're playing baseball growing up as a female, I can promise you, someone goes, softball or baseball? They always second guess. Like, bro, did I say I'm wearing a gray sweater or did I tell you something else? Like, don't correct me. I'm not wearing a t-shirt, but it's like me wearing this gray hoodie right now. Someone goes, are you wearing a gray hoodie or a gray sweatshirt or like or a t-shirt? And I'm like, what? Why are you? I told you the first time, listen to me. And that's sort of why I think females are constantly questioning themselves, because people are always questioning them, that you're like, wait, am I wearing a gray hoodie? Maybe I should check this out. Am I playing baseball? Should I be playing softball? And it sucks. It's, to be quite honest. So congrats to her. It was huge. Obviously I'm more proud because I grew up a Yankee fan, and like that says a lot about the organization. Obviously, with her being that first woman to do that, things will hopefully change. There's always the one that figures it out. And it's funny too, because I know, like, back, the haters, when you're talking about haters, a lot of my friends growing up, they're like, man, you made it, Sarina. Like, this is exactly what you wanted to do forever. Like, you ever asked anyone, I grew up, it was like, I'm gonna play for the New York Yankees and I'm gonna be the Yankees team reporter. And I haven't done really either of them. But so they're like, you made it though. But I just wanted to be around sports. I was like, what a waste of information that I have, that knowing baseball so well, being the language of sports in general. Like, obviously, if you play baseball, you can figure out a good defensive play on a football field or a basketball court. But, understanding the foundation of sports was, to me, like taking another language. And so when people are like, oh, I'm kind of scared, I don't know what to do, like, just you're gonna know way more than you think you know, to be in my opinion. And I just learned it as I went along with the whole thing, and now I'm like, I'm way too in it now.
Yeah, so we are live with Bally sports reporter Sarina Morales and the GOAT. Like I said earlier, we do have a fan question for you. They want to know, how did you cope when you were playing baseball when you were younger? How did you cope with all the negative words that were coming with you? They want to know.
Oh, I cried every day. I cried all the damn time. Coping was release of endorphins and literally crying. They say there's no crying in baseball, but I promise you, people cry. And being comfortable with it. Like, obviously I never cried on the field because I was around only men, and I didn't want that. I remember one time I broke my finger, my right index finger. I have a steel pin in it now, but I broke it playing baseball. I was at first base, took a weird hop, and it bounced off of a rock and it hit my backup hand, and it just cracked. Like, I was like, that's a broken finger, but I couldn't say anything. And I've stayed in the game, and my coach actually took me out because I kept trying to shake the pain off. And I was like, oh man. And he was like, you broke it? And I was like, I'm good. But like, whoo. And they're like, she's gonna cry. Like, they stopped the entire game for me.
Wow.
So because they were watching to see if I cried, like if that was supposed to be some like bigger thing than like me like making a play at first. So I'd say, yeah, there was a lot of not so easy things. I honestly just worked out a ton. I felt like I put all of my frustration and anger to figure out how to be so good that they couldn't question me there. Like, I am constantly working on my craft now as a reporter here. So I just used all of the negativity and put it into, well, I'm going to do more push-ups. I'm going to run. like it's a work smart sort of situation. I honestly think I overworked out as a kid, but no one told me. My parents were like, I guess she needs to work out. But I mean, I popped my hamstring, I had a bunch of injuries, and I think it was just like I overly worked out because I was trying to, I'm going to work so hard that no one's going to question me. It's sort of like, you think back of like Derek Jeter. Was he the best shortstop that ever played? No, but no one was ever going to work. No, Jeter happened. You don't hear it. The dude worked so hard and he was so dedicated. And so that was sort of my idea. Like, I'm not going to be the best. I know that. I'm not physically capable of playing baseball at the highest level. My body doesn't look like Albert Pujols. Like, I just don't look like that, or Bernie Williams. But I could be a decent, lead off. Like, I got some speed. Like, I don't know. I just kind of always was blissfully ignorant in the fact that I think if I had been trained at a high level early on, and I believe this with any woman, if they are trained the same way a male is trained from age 7 to 17, they will both equally be as capable and physical to play the game of baseball.
I agree. That's facts right there. And have you met Bernie Williams before, or not yet?
No, I haven't. He doesn't know. He doesn't even know. My childhood hero doesn't realize Puerto Rican too. So
yeah. So I want to obviously you work with the Rams, but I want to ask you about your opportunity with ESPN and SportsCenter, and that must have been a dream come true also. And I'm well connected with ESPN. I had some of your former co-workers. I had Jay Harris on the show. I had Tony Collins on the show. Nabil Kareem. I had Katie Hennessy on the show too, and you can go down the list. So, but what was it like working there, and the names I just mentioned, working with them too?
Well, you threw out the OG, the GOAT, in my opinion, is Jay Harris. Yeah. I love Jay Harris. I watched Jay Harris when I was at Syracuse in my college. I mean, every time I said this, he'd be like, you make me feel old, but it is crazy. And now working with like she's like, oh my God, I used to watch you on SportsCenter every morning. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm old. But it was, Jay is heavenly sent. Like, I love his family. I love his son, his wife, his daughter. Jay was an amazing coworker. He made me better at my craft, waking up every day on SportsCenter AM at 3 o'clock in the morning to get to work by 4 o'clock in the morning to write at a high level and do everything. I was in makeup chair by 5:45, dressed and ready to be on 10 minutes before, we are live on air at 7, and we went live from 7 to 10 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. we would probably like go to the cafeteria and get breakfast. That was the first thing we would eat. But breakfast meant like dinner really, or lunch, at that point. And then, you connect and have meetings or show your face. And then, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you're trying to run some errands, all to like take a nap at, 2 or 3 o'clock, and then start working again because you'd watch the games that start at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So that long story is one of my favorite people in the business. He's a mentor, he's a friend, he's fam to me. And I actually had a great time. I mean, Randy Scott, Kevin Negandhi, Jamie Sear, all who I worked on that morning show with, were great colleagues. I just bounced around, I had Rob King, shout out to Rob King, who was overseeing SportsCenter. He's the one who really rallied for me to be put on the show, to be hired at ESPN. There's a few that like really, Jack Obringer. I mean, I loved the family at ESPN. They were great, great people. And it's like a lot of the people behind the scenes. Mark Eisen was a producer. Dennis Reno was a producer on that show. Joe Costa did the graphics. I mean, we were a tight family of people because that's all you do. Is like you pretty much are just watching sports all the time. Seasons never stop. It goes one into another. You take your vacation in August when like a few things just die down all at the same time before training camp starts up, before the baseball season really gets into it. It's like, when do you have time to like break? It's like usually in that summer, all-star bump kind of thing. But those are your people.
Actually, I forgot to say, we also had Kevin Negandhi on the show too. So
okay.
But Jamie Sear, speak about her, because she was amazing on SportsCenter with you, and I miss her on the show, and she's all into cooking now and on her Instagram. So Yeah. So what was it like working with her and having that dynamic duo?
Jamie Sear actually came out to Super Bowl
Oh,
to work some of the Super Bowl this year, Super Bowl 56. So I got to see her for the first time in years,
oh wow.
which is fantastic. She is like one of my best friends. I can hit her up whenever I want. Again, for her too, I think there's a lot of women who would be like, "Oh, why do I have this younger woman kind of coming and working with me, less experience?" Jamie had been working in like different big cities prior on Sports Center. Very different path, but Jamie supported me. She was never jealous. She never made me feel uncomfortable. We used to eat dinner together every day. She would like cook me food because she loves cooking.
Yeah.
And yeah, we really kind of we always had backup clothes because sometimes we'd end up matching and it'd be like too awkward on camera. Like it was just funny. Like, wow. A few times since, just like some freelance projects for Food Network or for the Rams, promoting something for food or tailgating. So she's still killing it, doing her own thing. And yeah, like that's one of my besties. She's again like Jay Harris, Kevin,
Yeah.
Jamie, and Randy Scott, like I think are some of the most talented people on television.
Yeah. So for you, we have another fan question, and they want to know some of your funny moments and best moments on ESPN and Sports Center.
Well, there's tons. Jay Harris always wanted to take a selfie with his iPad, which I thought is like you take a selfie, you take your phone out and you like do you do your selfie thing. No, Jay Harris is like, oh, let me get an iPad. I'm like, Jay, you're like totally giving away your age right now. Kids don't be taking iPad selfies. So I
Wow.
used to make fun of him all the time for taking iPad selfies. And if you go on Jay's like Instagram,
Yeah.
sometimes he'll take iPad selfies and he'll do a hashtag iPad selfie and tag me
Yeah.
because I'm like, what are you doing? You're still doing these iPad selfies. I would call him out on camera. So yeah, Randy Scott is the biggest Taylor Swift fan. He listens to Taylor Swift in the mornings. We would always we would watch Game of Thrones like on the show, like we all collectively. There was like a handful of producers, and then us 4 or 5, depending on the day. You're talking like a group of 15 people that would sit in a space together, and you'd have computer to computer. So that like kind of get up from my chair and go, Jay, question. And then your back would face whoever your producer behind you or graphics or something. Stats guy, oh my God, Jason Starrett, another like what do you call those? Like the researchers, stats guy, call them stats guy. Amazing dude. Friggin' loved working with him too. But yeah, I would say funny stories, the iPad selfies, having to wait because of our sleep schedule. We couldn't watch it live on Sundays because we were watching football. So you either stayed up or you woke up early and watched it, or you had we would give ourselves till Tuesday. But Tuesday morning, you had to watch Game of Thrones. Otherwise, spoiler alert, we're all going to talk about it. So those were just funny times. Like Randy would sometimes watch Game of Thrones on his drive to ESPN, like on his phone, like just put it on the dashboard because he had such a long. He was in Boston, or outside of Boston, I should say, but he had like an hour some change drive. So just like that, he always drinks iced coffee and it's freaking cold everywhere. I'm like, that makes no sense to me. Yeah, like just weird. Like Jamie one time wore a pair of shoes that were way uncomfortable. And I had tried these shoes on before and I was like, nah, those are the most uncomfortable shoes ever. And Jamie's like, yeah, but you're not really walking around in them in the studio. And I was like, no, can't even keep them on my feet. And so obviously we wear heels on studio, but she would take them off during the day because she was like, oh my God, my feet are killing me.
Wow.
Ended up like falling because she couldn't put her foot in her shoe. One of the last, towards the end of the show. And I was like, this is why you can't wear these shoes. So it was always silly things like that. But yeah, the iPad selfies and Taylor Swift songs and uncomfortable shoes, I would say, are my top 3.
Wow. They still take Hannah Storm
iPad phone.
when Hannah
Oh,
Storm and Jay Harris work together, they take
yeah,
selfies.
yeah. I promise you it's with an iPad. I
Yeah.
promise you it's with an iPad.
Yeah, so I got to ask you this. So how tough was it for you that you had to leave ESPN and Sports Center, but you got another great opportunity now with Bally Sports, and you're working with another, like I said earlier, working with Annie Ager, another woman, inspiring woman out there, and you work, and the whole group at Bally Sports is amazing. So, but how tough was it for you leaving ESPN first?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was like a shock to the system. I was sort of like, that's a dream job for everyone. And the fact that I was able to make it, I mean, I'm a kid from the Bronx who had no connections in sports or TV or anything. I was just found, on YouTube, really. Like I was doing stuff for National Geographic and I had been doing things on camera, but never to the extent that I thought, I jumped a lot of levels, but you learn on the fly. And if you make mistakes, you have to be perfect, which I learned to do. Like, bless my boyfriend who's like, oh my God, you're a perfectionist. But it's like sometimes that's the one shot you have. Like you have one opportunity sometimes to be able to see someone perform. And if you mess up, you might not be given another opportunity. So to me, I always think that way. And when I do mess up, and obviously things happen, I am the worst. Like I probably have to run like 8,000 miles to like burn off my frustration. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but it was also a moment of like, I hit a job and I'm, 30 years old and I'm able to my new dream instead of new myself. So I think now, I got picked up. I went to the Rams. I covered the Rams for over 3 seasons, 3.5, 4. Obviously COVID, made things weird, but I was even with them. I was covering their game days earlier this season, like towards September. But great to work with there, and that sort of set me up for Bally to work for Rick Jaffe, who's like one of the GOATs in the game. Also came from Fox Sports, came from Nesson. And then with Annie being so young, obviously she has a ton of growth. She's going to learn a ton. I worked with her throughout the Super Bowl, but she's so creative with her NFL meetings, which you got to applaud her, because like creativity is, to me, one of the best things you can have over anything else. So yes, props to Annie, props to Mike Silver. Get to work with him, former NFL Network reporter, former Sports Illustrated writer. So we're sort of like a good balance, when it came to Super Bowl this year. But yeah, it'll be great too, because I'll be able to cover a bunch of different sports. Like, yeah, I'm an NFL insider, but like I also played baseball. Like I also covered basketball at ESPN. Like I covered a ton. And so to be able to have that flexibility and kind of get back into a flow more similarly to Sports Center is really, really exciting.
Then speaking of Annie Ager, I love her TikTok videos that she puts out.
Oh, she's hilarious. I know, she's so smart.
So we have another fan question. Someone wants to know your hype music.
My hype music, back in the day, I used to, there was this one song. I mean, this was like when I was about to like play baseball. I used to listen to a Linkin Park song. Can't even remember the name, but it was like angry enough that I was like, I'm gonna get into it. That and Jay-Z, Eminem, the song Raid. I used to hype myself up to that song before playing in any baseball or softball game. I'm gonna age myself, but I had like the CDs and stuff. So it was like you had your song and that was your song. But now, man, I mean, I was just listening to all these Super Bowl songs, like I'll listen to Eminem, but it's cool to see he's back. What's my hype song now? Man, I think I just hyped myself up. But if you went through my Spotify, I have literally, sometimes it might be like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, just to put me in a good mood to like get into like, okay, we're gonna have some fun today. Like sometimes because I put so much stress on myself, that my hype music sometimes is to actually calm down, because I am so hard on myself that I will mess up, because I'm so hard on myself, and I actually need to do less because I think I do too much.
Hey, that too much is good
Which
too.
is backwards. But it's like I need to calm down.
Like my hype music, I love. I mean, by the way, this was the best halftime show ever with all the
So
rappers
good.
coming back from back in the day. I love that, and I love Kendrick Lamar, by far the best rapper out there right now.
He's
And
great.
my hype music when it comes to when I work out, I love listening to Meek Mill, Dreams and Nightmares, and then
Oh, that's a great one.
and then the other one is T Grizzly, First Day Out.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like a Big Sean. Like if you're trying to like get me on some like hip hop, like I love Big Sean. Kendrick gets me. He's amazing. I actually think that this Super Bowl halftime show, I actually need to watch what it looked like on TV because I was like in the stands, obviously, and like different experience. I still think J-Lo and Shakira killed it. I'm also biased because I'm Puerto Rican Colombian, but I'm like, y'all forget that just happened like 2 years ago and it was really good. So I still, but like if you could have both of them, I'm in. Like
Yeah.
put those two at the top.
Yeah, so let's talk about when you were at the Rams for 3 years. Obviously, you've seen a lot of ups and downs with this team, and they made it to the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 53, but
Yeah.
they didn't win, obviously. And now, so what was it like covering them, seeing them for 3 years, building this team? Les Snead is by far a great GM in the NFL, and this year he finally decides to put all the put all the picks and get all the talent to win this Super Bowl. And I don't know, that shirt is amazing, by the way. He put on. But
Yeah.
what was it like for you? How grateful are you for that opportunity to be with the Rams?
Oh man, I learned so much. Honesty, working and asking questions to Sean McVay and experiencing his, first years as an NFL coach and seeing how much he's grown. Being around, Andrew Whitworth, who,
Yeah.
was one of the oldest offensive line, one of the oldest NFL players in the league, if not the oldest. And just his wisdom and sort of the way that you watch him be mentored young guys on both sides of the field too, defensive players and offensive players.
Yeah.
Seeing how that locker room operated with the balance of an Andrew Whitworth, a Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald isn't necessarily the most vocal leader, but is always the first one on the field. The first one, like, obviously sets a precedent. Like, here's what we should be doing. Got me doing push-ups some off seasons where I'm like, man, the push-up challenge. I need to fucking. Oh, excuse me. I need to get ready and do my own push-ups.
No, hey, Serena, you're good. You can curse on this.
I'm like, oh, sorry.
You're good.
I'm talking about Aaron Donald. I'm over here like dropping F-bombs and everything. But yeah, so being around AD, just he's awesome. Like one of my favorite guys to cover, just to be around. Obviously one of the most talented NFL players to ever play the game. The fascination of even seeing a guy like Eric Weddle come back out of retirement and able to perform at a very high level shows like the faith, the genius of Les Snead is I'm putting pieces together that won't overstep anyone. Odell kind of knew where he needed to be. Cooper Kupp was having an incredible season, feeling, the support that, Coop is holding down as like the wideout number one. Like he is the main guy. But for Odell to come in and be like, okay, cool, I'm going to work with him. I'm going to study the playbook. Like I was told that Odell, during the bye week, right after he signed with the Rams, he like studied the playbook that whole bye week. Like he didn't have any time off. He studied the playbook. People who really wanted to win. I was told Von Miller actually influenced AD to be more of a vocal leader. Like he was like, yo, this is your locker room. Like you need to speak up for these guys. Like they're going to look to you. When you speak, they're going to listen. And that's kind of, when you see like that NFC championship game and AD kind of like yelling at the defense, now you can see how. So from the times that I would just sit with them in the cafeteria and like talk about their families or what's going on in their lives to now is really remarkable. Just really cool to see.
Wow, that's really amazing. And I don't know if what they should do? They should give reporters their Super Bowl rings too. You deserve a Super Bowl ring since you were part of the team.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's fine. I got these little rings in my hand. It's inconvenient. You know what I mean?
So I'm gonna put you on the spot. So, what would you say your most memorable interview you have done with the Rams? The most funniest interview and the most interview that you learned from?
My most memorable interview with the Rams. I've done a lot of them. I've interviewed men multiple times. I actually would say it was the Chiefs Rams Monday Night Thriller in 2018. The Rams Chiefs Monday night game, that was like the highest scoring Monday night game ever created. I mean, they just kept bouncing back and forth, scoring. The defense had scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and they were by Samson Ebukam, who is now a 49er, but linebacker for the Rams that season, the Super Bowl year. And after the game, I grabbed a player off the field, and I grabbed Samson because he, one, is very quiet, doesn't really talk a lot, but I wanted to highlight that the game wasn't about the offense scoring so much. The defense helped them score 2 touchdowns. I mean, to keep tit for tat with the Chiefs that season was incredible. A lot of people were like, oh, that should have been the team that won, because then the Chiefs ended up going against the Patriots for the AFC Championship game, and it was close, and the Patriots won. Obviously, with a Tom Brady, Bill Belichick combination, that's usually what happens. But the Chiefs were really close to playing the Rams that season in the Super Bowl 53. But I got Samson off the field, and leading up to that game, the Rams were supposed to play in Mexico City, and they were supposed to play the game there. That was their international game. So prior to that, the Rams, including myself, went to Colorado Springs to train in elevated space, in elevation, to help the lungs prepare for that game. And they did that, and then they were told that the field was not good enough to play on, and the players had concerns. No one wanted to be injured, so they canceled that game. And the Rams, because it was their home game, prepared a home game at the Coliseum last minute, sold out the game in 6 days. So it was a sold out crowd on a Monday night. Imagine the traffic in LA. It was insane. And there were fires. There were also fires. So people were being like relocated from their homes. And so we ended up getting a bunch of first responders at the game. It was just a very insane 6 days. Like, we land in Colorado Springs, and then all of a sudden it was, the game might get canceled. We might move it, relocate it. We might fly back. So we had flown to Colorado Springs to train in altitude, only to fly back but it ended up working out because there were fires. So you couldn't even breathe in LA anyway. So it was like just crazy. All that to say that Samson, I grabbed him off the field after scoring 2 defensive touchdowns and then the most high scoring Monday Night Football game. And I had a moment, and I was like, take a look around. And we're on the video board, like the big Jumbotron. And like, what is this? We fly to Colorado Springs, train for a week. The game was canceled, relocated. There are fires in Los Angeles. There are first responders here. This, Coliseum is packed with fans cheering for you to experience one of the greatest NFL games ever played. How do you feel? Like, what's going on? I mean, the guy almost went to tears and was so thankful. And like, the crowd cheered. It was just a special moment for me to see a guy like that be acknowledged by the fans, be like, there was this, I was like the third person, it was like the crowd cheering for him feeling emotional, him feeling, validated for what he had done and all the things that had played out. It was like, it was all worth it. So that's probably my most memorable interview with the Rams. And any other question you said, because that was such a long answer, I don't remember the question.
So, actually, basically, this fan put it into 3. So that was the first. Okay. And then the other one was actually, they want to know your most funniest one.
Funniest one. Probably, Aaron Donald's very funny. I had an interview with Aaron Donald, but John Kelly, who was like a practice squad backup, played a few games. John Kelly, a running back, grabbed my microphone one time. This happens very often when you come off a practice field, where they're practicing. And he was like, I want to try your job. So he grabbed my microphone and was like, Aaron, I mean, how do you feel about practice today? Like, I started doing my job, which again, when you get players to feel that comfortable around, the team reporter and things like that, it means like I'm doing my job right, because they trust me enough to get the correct information out. They feel comfortable enough to, for me to be in an environment that it really belongs to them. So it's just funny. I mean, they're all funny. They're all crazy. Those guys are funny, but I would say I always of an improv play off of like what's happening in that moment, and like rather than ignore it, because the viewer is obviously paying attention to it. So I'm like, if the viewer is now distracted, I might as well pay attention to what's happening. Not all reporters do it.
Yeah.
As a viewer, when I watch those things, I sometimes find it necessary to acknowledge, but not always the case. But in this case, if a other player is grabbing your microphone, you kind of have to acknowledge it.
Yeah. So, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to Lindsay Theory, who works for the Rams now. What do you think of her as a reporter?
Lindsay is amazing. She's pregnant. She's
Yeah.
had a baby, I think, or she didn't yet.
No, not yet.
But she's super pregnant and due any day. And she's fantastic. She takes her job very seriously, works extremely hard. And I think for her, again, a trailblazer, it's not easy. Like, it's really not easy to do this job. And, I don't necessarily know people take females as seriously too when they ask football questions. And so I would give a shout out to Lindsay Theory, to Jordan Rodrigue, who also covers for The Athletic. The two of them and myself were sort of like the three amigas in there, asking, they were really leading the ship, asking questions. As a team reporter, it's more the team writer who would be more asking questions, where I would get like background information when I have, lunch in the cafeteria, things like that. But, to be in there and do what they were able to do, and to have the success that they've been able to have, is always applaud them, and always really appreciated Lindsay's support, when I was kind of new covering the Rams as well.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of women in sports. I have a team of 7 people who helps me out with the show, and out of the 7, 4 of them are females. So I'm a big advocate at helping women in sports to grow. And it's still some work to do, but I think we're heading into the right direction when it comes to women.
Why did you get into supporting women? Was there did you see something?
Because I feel like, because some people downgrade them, the people say they can't do the same thing as we can. They can. I mean, women know a lot about sports. And people still think they can't talk about sports. And I don't know if you saw about the story about Mina Kimes, but she's amazing. Mina Kimes, she's amazing. Yeah. I don't, when people say something about it like that, I don't like that. So when I started this show, that's when I started the movement for the show.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, appreciate you. Thanks.
Yeah, so I want to ask you though. Speaking of the Super Bowl, a lot of crazy things happened afterwards. You had a marriage proposal from Taylor Sapp, and then you got you. Speaking of a baby, Van Jefferson's wife got a baby after the game. So what do you like about those moments when there's a marriage proposal, or after winning a Super Bowl, or having a baby after the Super Bowl?
I saw Van Jefferson run out of the locker room after the Super Bowl and look like he was in utter shock. Like, I will focus on the Van story, because this is a guy who, is very calm, cool, collected. Was drafted last year. This was 2021. So 2020 was drafted, and, came out of college, vibed very quickly with the wideout group. Again, he's the son of a wide receivers coach, just smart guy, but always enjoyed, getting to know him. And I've seen him a handful of times. I saw him at a Clipper game, said hi, just a very nice guy. And so for me to see anything other than is an outlier. And this man just won the Super Bowl, and his wife is going into labor, and it was sort of like so I watched him leave the locker room, and I have no idea that he's about to have a baby. And so I'm just like, man, and he's like, oh my God. Like I mean, his eyes were so wide. And then he just like saw a bunch of people, there were reporters like my outside the locker room. And he's like, what do I do? So this man had to get into a car and drive through Super Bowl traffic to get to the stadium, all while his team is screaming, shouting inside their locker room, celebrating. I mean, what an insane experience. Like you
Wow.
are adding a child to the world and
That's
you are like, oh crap, I just won the Super Bowl. Normally those two things don't go together, but in Van Jefferson's world, it did.
Now that's a story that he can tell his kid when he grows up. That's amazing.
You have to call it Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Lombardi. A kid's name's Lombardi.
And also, speaking of yeah, Odell, same thing with Odell's situation. He said that if his wife or girlfriend had the baby, he would have not been in the game. But luckily, he got to play. And I mean, it's just amazing to see this type of stories, especially after a Super Bowl. But I want to ask you about yesterday's parade and shout out to Kelly Smiley, wishing her a speedy recovery after she fell. But I want to ask you about the parade in general and what was that? Were you there yesterday?
I did not go to the parade. Almost did actually. But no, I saw all of the coverage on my television, which seemed crazy, seemed pretty insane, really cool to see. Aaron Donald wearing his uniform, meaning his abs. Love that Obo Okoronkwo, who has as many abs as AD, but a smaller figured person, also had no shirt on. Just the guys being able to finally relax. Like, it's really hard to go through an NFL season and come to work every day and give your all. And there was never a doubt in my mind. Like I said this a few times. From what I experienced covering the Rams up close was in 2018 when they went to Super Bowl 53, it was, oh my gosh, we're going to the Super Bowl. In 2021, now in 2022, the Rams going into Super Bowl 56 was not, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. It was, oh my God, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. So to be able to like really put that to words and see them, make it happen is so cool. And for them to just drunkenly be on buses and celebrate with fans was cool.
I mean, Matthew Stafford was gone. I'm telling you.
They were all gone. I'd be gone too if I won the Super Bowl.
But yeah. So I mean, speaking of Aaron Donald, and they were saying there were some reports out there that he might retire. But do you see them running it back with Von Miller coming back?
I did. I mean, look, that could just be, wine talk or whatever they were drinking, tequila talk. They'll probably, figure it out. I think it's so impressive. Like, Aaron's family is young. He's recently married to his best friend, Erica Sherman, who is a wonderful human being. They have a baby. So Aaron's got 3 kids now. I could totally hanging up the cleats while he's still fully there, like no real injuries, knock on wood, like, but if they have that team, they could certainly, win again. It's a grueling season. It's a grueling job, like Aaron Donald specifically does a ton for the community outside of football. So would I be surprised if he hung up his cleats? No, but if they want to run it back, we're all here for it. Grab your popcorn because it's going to be fun.
Yep. So a couple more things here before I let you go. What advice would you give to young girls, young women that are trying to get into the same business as you, as us, as sports reporters or journalists, wherever they want to go in life? What advice would you give them?
I'll give a couple of tangible pieces of advice, and then like one like shoot for the stars type of thing. So 2 tangible pieces of advice for anyone. But if you are nervous, like, to be quite honest, like, you go into a room, you're not going to see a lot of females. Sports, it's getting better. But if you're uncomfortable, you're nervous, and you have to do something that is on camera or something related to sports, and you're not fully sure, think of 3 things that you want to cover or ask or focus on. It helps the right? Like whatever story you're covering, keep it simple. Again, for me, I need to keep things simple. I am teaching myself, hone in on, I have all sorts of information. I could talk someone's ear off. I could talk to a wall, but that's not necessarily the key to being a good journalist. And so I could over prepare, but it's really not necessary if I just have the one job to do. And so focus on 3 things when you're doing a story and breathe. And when I mean breathe, like hands called the Superman pose in this, but like I put my hands on my hips and I just sort of like take deep breaths in. Sometimes I'll raise my hands over my head. Like it sort of helps your posture, helps your breathing. So that's like a tangible piece of advice. Another tangible piece of advice I always tell any reporter, females, anyone, but take an class. My mom is an English teacher in the Bronx, used to teach English as a second language. A lot of kids didn't even speak English, and she was trying to get them to at least survive and figure out how to get through their classes, whatever else they needed to do to speak English. And so she would hire improv instructors to come to her classes. This was like she was teaching high school. And so I was in those classes as like an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid. And I took improv classes and I got to do pretty well. And sometimes I will even take a week-long course of improv, like I did Groundlings out here in LA, just to get myself reacquainted with the art of listening, the art. And I recommend any reporter do it. Key to reporting is listening, and then you report. But you're not going to report on anything if you have no information. But the key to reporting is actually observing and listening, which means shut up. Yeah. And then you open your mouth and keep it simple. So those are my 2 tangible pieces of advice. And then for women really trying to succeed, I would say exactly what my parents said, like, don't take no. If you have a closed door, then go find another damn door. And I realized that that's so awareness that I wasn't allowed to play baseball. I wasn't allowed to, cover sports, because we are allowed, but people kept telling me no. But guess what? I still play baseball. And guess what? I still covered, I worked at Sports Center. So even though it's like, oh, these are the rules and you have to do this, we'll find another door that will open for you until you get back the way that you were trying to get to. So those would be my 3 pieces of advice. Like, there's always a door open, and sometimes you can grow that thing bigger than what you thought it would be, and you end up being more satisfied. I worked at National Geographic for a year and change, and that was one of the happiest, best jobs I ever had. I wasn't filled because I was writing, I was creative, and I got to infuse sports when it was smart to do it. And so sometimes people are like, oh, I want to be a sports reporter because I played baseball. Oh, I want to, like, production jobs are just as great. They probably pay more, pay better consistently. You don't have to put on like fake lashes, all that crap. Like there are other jobs like writers, editors, technicians, sales, marketing. There's so many other jobs in sports. I think, like, for me, maybe if I went back and I was just like, oh, I could work in sports and be on the field and, be a referee. I could go and be, again, one of the guys who oversees and manages the refs. Like, there are jobs that are specifically, or takes the sound for NFL things like that. Like, you can be around teams, like dietitian. You could be the dietitian. You could be a strength and conditioning coach. Like, there's so many other jobs that I feel people are like, I have to be a reporter because I need to do it. Like, no. Oh. Think about your skill set first, and then think about all the jobs that are actually involved in sports without having the stress, the anxiety, the like journey. Like, take your own journey. You don't have to copy anyone else. Do your own thing.
Oh, well said there. And someone said you're such an inspiration, and someone said you should start a women's baseball league.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And actually, I'm excited because I am going to work with that all-female baseball team this weekend. So pretty excited about that. So yeah, maybe I will start my own female baseball team.
Yeah,
or league.
So before we get to the last 2 things, what are you most looking forward to in the future with Bally Sports and helping Annie grow even more, and then working with Mike Silver and the rest of the crew? What are you guys most looking forward to in the future?
It's at such a baby stage but it's crazy because, they obviously are huge. Their footprint is throughout all of the US. I mean, they're basically all of the RSNs that were former Fox FS1. And so the reach is huge. I think it's more about getting this team get going, and soon we'll be back on all of your TV screens on Bally Sports, covering everything. And I'm pretty excited because Rick Jaffe, we used to work at Fox for NFL Sundays, and he's like one of the greats, has been in this game longer than I've been alive. Not to age him, but I just think he's wise and a wonderful man to work with. And it's been really a blessing to be able to. We're babies, but that's babies. You get to grow. You get to be stronger. You get to develop what you want to develop. You get to work with what you want to work on. Like, we're building this thing from the ground up, and we have the right people in place to do it. So that's pretty exciting for myself.
Yeah. And last two things here. Our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach, but he's now the coach for Grambling State University. We're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. And it's still horrible out there what we're seeing with that. So we're going to send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Great. Love to do that. Love to check it out.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
You need the rest and relaxation. Shout out to all of the nurses, doctors. Let's say teachers too have been first responders. They've had to work from home for so long. So, I mean, look, the danger of being a nurse and doctor was obviously really scary the past 2 years. So super thankful for them, especially people who are still working even without COVID patients. I mean, it's just an exhausting time. But also, really, I don't think teachers really got any credit in any of this at all. They were working over Zoom and trying to keep America's education system running without a real clear plan. I think they lost a lot of good teachers because of how horrible the conditions were to work with, and with very little pay. So yes, thankful to all the nurses, the doctors, and the teachers out there, and really the delivery services, everyone that has been working the past handful of years to get us through COVID. Like, a huge thank you to them, because they're the real heroes here.
Yeah, well said. And would you like to plug anything before we close this out, and tell our fans where they can find you?
Sure. You can check me out on Instagram at Morales. I'm putting up a bunch of photo dumps from my Super Bowl experience this year. My Twitter, where I'm vocal about all things in the universe, at Sarina, Sarina. I'm the original Sarina. Didn't buy my name, just, was on it first. And you can check me out at Bally Sports. I'll be there. I just wrapped up Super Bowl coverage, but should see me soon. Probably going to get into some baseball coverage whenever the season starts up. So it'll be pretty exciting. Maybe some March Madness.
Yeah.
So pretty excited about that. So yeah, check me out on Bally Sports as well.
Wow. So there you have it. That wraps up episode 982 with former Rams reporter, former ESPN Sports Center host, and now Bally Sports reporter Sarina Morales, the GOAT. Man, she's killing it in the sports industry. So I just want to say thank you again for joining the show, and thank you to our fans for tuning in and asking questions for Sarina. This was an honor, and thank you again. We would love to have you back at some point down the line in the future, so you can meet the full team. But keep killing it, Sarina. Like I said, you're amazing. You're such an inspiration, and you're doing big things. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate it.
Anytime.